Hi, amazing people. Welcome back to the channel. If you're seeing me on your screen for the first time, my name is IJ, and on this channel, we drop information that help international students navigate their study abroad journey. So today's video will be deliberating on what different options are there. Okay, now for international students that are hoping to study abroad, that may have been considering the UK initially, but because of this current immigration policies and the white paper, there are so many uncertainties. And some people have reached out to me and are asking me, which other countries do you think is better for international students to explore? So on today's video, we'll be discussing or we'll be deliberating about some countries I feel are also good options. Yes, we'll be talking about some other countries that are good options for international students in terms of visas, in terms of immigration policies, in terms of the settlements after graduation, in terms of jobs as well. So we're going to quickly run through those different countries. We are going to first of all talk about what has changed about the UK and why are people considering other options. So currently we know that the UK is trying to phase out the net migration, and they are really cutting down on the immigration and the rest of the things. So they have brought in so many immigration policies in this white paper that directly affects international students. Okay, so first of all, we have the dependent restrictions. Okay, initially we knew that as a dependent, you're not required to do anything at all. Yours is just to pack your bags and go with your partner without having to go through any sort of examination or whatever. But currently in this white paper, it is proposing that the adult dependent or every adult dependent writes an English test, which simply means that you'll be writing an IELTS as well. So what we're not exactly sure about is if the dependent fails their English test, does this also directly affect the main applicant? I'm not exactly sure. Now that's the first immigration policy that directly affects international students. Now the next is the extension of the settlement period. Initially, we know that in the UK, when you are on a post-study visa for 5 years, you're eligible to apply for indefinite leave to remain, which is more like the permanent residency in the UK. But now, this white paper is proposing that this period be extended to 10 years. Okay, now that's the next immigration policy here on this paper, this white paper, that are also directly affect international students. Okay, now all these policies that are so numerous to mention, we talked about it in detail in my previous video on the channel. So if you want to have a full recap of that policy, please watch that video. Okay, I'm going to include the link in this video as well, so you can watch that video. But all these policies are making international students to look for alternative countries to attend, or alternative countries to attend their schools and them to also migrate to. Okay, so we're going to talk about Canada as one of the alternatives. Okay, so in Canada, we know that tuition fee ranges from around 15,000 Canadian dollars to 25,000 Canadian dollars. If you're going to Canada to study, you can bring your dependents. Okay, there is no restrictions on dependent visas at all. You can bring your dependents on your study visa. What international students are also mostly interested in is the post-study options. What's available for them in this country when they are done with their studies? Okay, how long do they have before they get to either leave the country or they get to switch visas or the rest of the things? Okay, now in UK is proposing to also reduce that visa duration from 2 years to 18 months. But then in Canada, the post-study work permit is for 3 years. After you're done with your studies, you are allowed to stay in Canada. You're allowed to stay in Canada and work for 3 years. It's now Canada has easier PR route. Okay, it's so easy for students to switch to permanent residency in Canada. When you're done with your, I think it's after 3 years or 4 years, you can now switch to be a permanent resident in Canada. So there's a shorter period for you to get settled in Canada than the UK. Okay, currently it was initially 5 years, but now they are proposing that it be extended. So you are seeing that there's a very big difference. But the downside for Canada is that HND applicants have it the tough way. Okay, it's not so easy for HND applicants to gain admission to study direct masters. You have to do a pre-masters or you do a top-up program. So it's either you do a top-up program in your home country and then you apply, or you apply for pre-masters in Canada and then you go. So you can't get a direct entry with your HND to study masters in Canada. It's not possible. You understand? So that's one downside about Canada. But then if you want easy migration, easy settlement, I think Canada is the next best alternative. Generally, it is a known notion that Canada is actually more easier to settle in than other countries or than the UK, as much as I know. So another downside to Canada is that their visa wait time is way longer. Okay, for the UK, you know that you have to wait for 15 working days after you apply for a student visa, but you also have the options of priority and super priority. But Canada does not have those options. Canada, you have to wait for, I think it's from 8 to 12 weeks, and there are no options for either a priority or a super priority. I'm not sure, I've not heard about it. If I'm wrong, please, I am open to corrections. But for now, with the information I have, I am not sure Canada has the option for you to apply for a super priority visa or priority visa. You have to, it is just one standard visa which has the wait time of 10 to 18 weeks or 8 to 12 weeks. Okay, so that's another downside. And the weather is quite harsh. I heard that it snows so much in Canada and the weather is really, really harsh, especially for people that have not really experienced what it means to be in cold weather. If you're coming from the hotter part of if your country is hot, you've not really experienced cool weather, I feel it's going to be a struggle adjusting. But then again, people do go there and people adjust. So why won't you? That's the first country that's an alternative to the UK. So if you're looking to study abroad and you feel that the immigration policies in the UK are too much for you to handle, you can also explore going to Canada. Okay, there's Australia in this mix. Now Australia is known as the silent power move. That's that's what people call it, because it's not really loud. You know, I don't think I've really heard people saying, I want to go to Australia. No, it is so silent, but then people are migrating to Australia, and I feel that people that migrate to Australia are so quiet because they're not really, we don't really hear much about the study options in Australia or the rest of it. But then we're going to talk about it today. What's available for international students in Australia? So Australian university tuition ranges from 20,000 Australian dollars to 30,000 Australian dollars. Now, I don't know what that is in exchange rate, but then you can do that calculations by yourself, okay? I'm just giving you a blanket information about these countries, all right? I observe that the post-study visa for Australians is 2 to 6 years. 2 to 6 years. Now, I don't know what's why it has that options of 2 to 6 years. I don't know if when you're done with 2 years you have to apply for an extra year or what. I don't know, but then it is 2 to 6 years. So as an international student, when you get there, I'm sure you're going to know all about your post-study options. Okay, your post-study visa options. As I said earlier, this is a blanket information. All right. The permanent residency in Australia is quite structured, so you have to follow a certain route for you to be settled in the country. Australia has less buzz. There's no much buzz. There's no much noise about Australians or students studying in Australia. I don't know why. People need to put out more information out of Australia. If you're studying in Australia as an international student, please make a video on YouTube and tell us what it feels like to study in Australia, because we really want to know. Okay, really want to make this also an open option for other people, for other international students to see Australia as a study abroad destination. Okay, Australia is also best for long-term settlement, long-term planning. I know that there are good job opportunities in Australia, and there's also a proper work-life balance in Australia. Yes, there's a work-life balance in Australia. I heard it one time from somebody that Australia is so perfect in work-life balance. Okay, and then the downside that I hear that all of us know about, yeah, I feel is a myth, because whenever I see any documentary about Australia or Australians or something about Australia, I'm expecting to see like a python crawling around the streets or coming out of people's houses, but then it's not so. But there's this notion that we have that Australia, we know for a truth that Australia houses most of the world's deadliest animals, but then it's not as if they reside with people in the houses. I think that is one of the fears that people have about going to Australia or about making Australia a destination for study or settlement, because they feel like so many wild animals in the house, in your home, in your toilet. Immediately you go into your house, you're going to see a wild animal. I think it's not really true. I'm not sure. I've not gone to Australia before, but I don't think it's true, because if it was, why would people still be migrating to Australia? Why would there be a good number of international students or even international immigrants in Australia? Yeah. Oh, there won't be a good number of immigrants in Australia if it was true. So I don't think that is one of the downside. I think it's just a notion that we have, or a fear that has been instilled in us. I don't know why. I don't know where this came from, but that is the general notion that there are so many wild animals in Australia, and if you go, they are roaming around the streets, they'll attack you in your home. I'm not sure that's true though. Yeah, I also know that there's high living costs in Sydney and in Melbourne. So if you're studying around that area, it's more like the London or the England of the UK. Yeah, you know that the living cost for living in London is higher than every other part of the UK. So I think it's the same thing for Sydney and Melbourne as well. and there's also time zone challenges. So there's a big difference in our time. Yeah, so that's another thing. So when you travel to Australia, you're going to be jet lagged for a while before you then settle in. Yeah. So that is it about Australia. Now we're going to talk about Ireland. I hear that Ireland is a small country with big opportunities. I've not been to Ireland before, but I did my research and that is what I heard, that it is a small country with big opportunities. Now tuition ranges from 12,000 euros to 18,000 euros when you want to study in Ireland. And there is a 2-year post-study visa as well. They call it stamp 1G. And there's also an easier EU job market access. Okay, so it's easier when you study in Ireland. It's easier for you to break into the European job market from there. So I think that's something we should explore as well. And English is also the main language in Ireland, so you shouldn't really be stressed about the language differences and the rest of it. It's an English speaking country. Okay, now Ireland is also best for students wanting a smaller, less saturated UK alternative. Okay, so if you're a student and you're looking for a better and a less saturated UK alternative, I think Ireland should be what you should look out for. But then there's a risk for fewer schools. Fewer schools are admitting international students, and expensive accommodation as well in Dublin. Yeah. So that is just the downside for this. There are fewer schools, and there is also a accommodation crisis as well, especially in Dublin. Okay, so let's go to the next country that is an alternative to the UK. Now let's talk about Germany. Yeah, Germany is what people call the tuition-free dream. I don't know why they call it that, but I feel there are so many scholarship opportunities available in Germany that people don't really think about or even think to explore. So public universities are mostly low tuition in Germany, very low tuition in Germany, and but the downside for Germany is that you should be able to speak at least a little bit of German for you to be able to blend in very well. There's strong economy for engineering and tech jobs. So if you're an engineer or you're into engineering courses or tech, you have a very good chance of succeeding in Germany. Okay, but you should be able to have at least a little knowledge about German language and all that, so you can flow properly. Yeah, it is not like Ireland that is mostly English dominated. It is a German speaking country because it's Germany. Yeah. So you have to at least have a little idea about German or learn the language if you want to study there. But you can also go as an English speaking person. I don't know if I think they will have options for English speakers, but then it will be such a struggle if you don't really know any single thing or any vocabulary at all in German. Okay, you're going to struggle a bit, I think, maybe until you settle and until you understand the way of life and the language or small command words and the rest of it. But then Germany is also a good option or a good alternative to the UK. And also there is very tough admission for HND holders. So HND holders, my people, it is so tough for you to get admission directly to study masters in the UK. So you should, or so if you are thinking of studying in any other country, in any of these countries I've mentioned, or the one I'm still going to mention, you should think of doing a top-up degree. Do a top-up degree in your home country before you think of applying to every other country, because most times the UK seems as if it's the only one that is fair to HND applicants. I think that is why some people still want to come to the UK, because they feel that this is more or less like the only option they have at higher learning because of their background as HND holders, and they may not have the opportunity to do a top-up degree and the rest of it. So they feel like no matter the immigration policies and no matter how it is, let me just go to the UK because that's the only option I have available. And here I am telling you that it's not the only option. If you have time, if you have an extra year, yeah, I would advise that you do a top-up degree in your home country, and then you are now free to explore every other country available, because by then you do not have any barrier anymore, because the top-up degree has broken every barrier and has taken off every single barrier. So you are now on the same level as a BSc holder. Okay, so take time to do a 1-year top-up course so you can have your freedom to apply to any other country. But if you still insist to come to the UK, then by all means you can apply with your HND. Okay. Now, what are the risks of studying in Germany? There's a huge language barrier. That's it for sure. So what is my honest recommendation? You're coming to the end of the video. What is my honest recommendation? Now, my honest recommendation is going to be, if you have an HND or you're looking for a low budget university or a low budget country, I'll say UK or Ireland is your option. If you want PR or long time settlements, I'll say Canada or Australia is your option. If you're studying tech, engineering, tech courses, engineering courses, or you want a low tuition or more scholarship opportunities, I'll say Germany is your option because Germany has more scholarship opportunities for international students. Yeah, but there is just a language risk or a language barrier. That's just it. And if you're married and you still insist on relocating with your partner and you want to relocate with your partner on a student visa, I'll say Canada or Australia is still your best bet because the UK currently does not allow international students to bring their partners or their dependents, especially except if you're coming for a master's a master's of research or PhD. But then again, there are still more restrictions on this limitations because you still have to write an IELTS and the rest of other visa restrictions. So you see that it is not so palatable even for dependents. So if you want your dependents to be free without having to go through the stress of writing any single thing, I'll say Canada and then Australia is your best bet. And also, if you're not in a rush, okay, and you want a smooth, easy migration into settlement in any country, Canada is still your best bet. Okay, so this is where I'm going to draw the curtain on this video. What do you think about all these countries? Do you have more better options or more better alternatives to the UK that you want to share? Please share and drop your comment for me in the comment section, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye.